Piers Sellers began his career at NASA in 1982 and flew 3 times on the space shuttle aboard STS-112, STS-121, and STS-132. In total, Piers Sellers spent nearly 35 days in space, and as an astronaut, he helped build the International Space Station over the course of 6 spacewalks totaling 41 hours. We're T-minus 19 minutes and counting to today's launch. No issues being worked by the flight control team at Wallops. And joining us today is a special guest from Northrop Grumman to discuss today's launch. Christina Haloma is the Antares Systems Engineering Program Manager. Christina, welcome.
Thank you, Sandra. I'm excited to be here, and I'd just like to welcome all of you watching here in the United States and around the world to see a successful Antares launch and Cygnus mission to the International Space Station.
We're getting a look at the pad now of the Antares rocket. Christina, can you tell us some of the milestones we can look forward to ahead of today's launch?
Yes, so Sandra, there's still quite a few pre-launch milestones that are left here right before we launch. For example, we are currently at the tail end of the propellant loading operations. When that is complete, the team will top off the propellant and do some fuel adjustments. And then we'll do a final go, no-go poll that will be completed to proceed to final countdown here before launch. And then at approximately 3 minutes before we launch, the auto sequence will be initiated. That is where Antares' internal flight computers take over and commands the vehicle. So the auto sequencer then goes through the final steps of prepping the vehicle for launch and will proceed through the final countdown. But after liftoff, our team will be also monitor some post-launch milestones. The first milestone will be us waiting for the main engines to burn, and that'll happen for approximately 200 seconds until our main engine cutoff. And then once we get to the main engine cutoff, we'll go into a short coast right before we separate from stage 1 from stage 2, which we call the upper stack portion of Antares. After that, we'll continue to coast a little bit, and then about 30 seconds before starting that separation, and then we'll have an internal separation where the stage 2 flies out of the external upper stack. Once stage 2 is clear of the upper stack, the stage 2 will ignite for about 2.5 minute burn that puts Cygnus real close to their orbit, and then it'll coast and ensure everything is stable, and then Cygnus will be released into the desired orbit. And then after Cygnus is released, they'll go through their own comm checks, and then about an hour or hour and a half after we separate, Cygnus will then release its solar arrays and be on its way to the International Space Station. So all in all, from launch until Cygnus gets to its orbit is approximately 9 minutes. So it'll be fun to watch here post-launch.
It sure will. And Christina, this Cygnus mission is unique in that it has reboost capability. Can you discuss the Cygnus reboost capability planned during this mission?
Yes. So, Sandra, in addition to delivering more than the 8,000 pounds of critical cargo to the astronauts living on the ISS, the Northrop Grumman Cygnus spacecraft will perform its first operational ISS reboost. Reboosting is a critical part of altitude maintenance for the International Space Station. What happens is the Earth's atmosphere causes a slight amount of drag, causing the station orbit to decay over time. So Northrop Grumman will perform the adjustment service while Cygnus is actually berthed with the station. So small, precise nudges are required to place the ISS back into its proper orbit. And Northrop Grumman is very proud to offer this standard service to NASA.
Today's operation. Thank you very much, Christina. Christina Haloma with us today by phone.
And GNC1, LC. Go ahead, LC. Yeah, step 405, provide status trajectory file for launch operation.
Now inside 15 minutes until launch, everything continues to proceed on track for today's liftoff scheduled at 11:40 and 3 seconds Central Time, 12:40 and 3 seconds Eastern Time.
LC, Core 1 on countdown 1.
Go ahead, Core 1.
So I've got step 397 for you. Fuel level adjustment is not required.
Copy that. Check 397 complete. And Prop 2, step 398 is go for ARM OCCS for no adjustment to fuel level.
LC, Prop 2, that's at work.
And OCCS.
At this hour, propellant loading is now complete. Everything continues to be green across the board at Wallops. The weather's looking good. Everything all set for Antares to begin its flight to deliver the Cygnus resupply vehicle to its preliminary orbit, now less than 14 minutes from now.
Step 401 is not required. Step 406, not required. Step 407, not required. And launch team will be coming up on our pole to proceed with final countdown in a little bit over a minute. And CMD, I'll wait for your call on step 408.
LC, the CMD.
T-minus 13 minutes and counting.
LC, CMD. Cygnus is in launch mode and nominal.
Copy that, CMD. We'll check 408 complete. Okay, launch team, step 409. At this time, I want to poll to proceed with final countdown. GSO?
GSO, go.
RSO?
RSO is go.
TD?
TD's go.
Prop lead?
Prop lead is go.
Stage 1?
Standby 1, LC.
MES 1?
MES 1 is go.
GC?
GC is go.
ACE?
ACE is go.
Mars?
Mars is go. Stage 1 is go.
Stage 1 is go. CMD?
CMD is go.
LD?
LD is go.
NG?
Northrop Grumman is proud to honor renowned NASA astronaut and climatologist Piers Sellers. Throughout his career, Piers made countless contributions to Earth and climate science, and his research revolutionized the methods for utilizing satellite data and analytics to increase our understanding of Earth's biosphere and changing climate. With unbridled optimism, dedication, and passion for the future sustainability of our ecosystem, Piers relentlessly strived for the betterment of humankind. It is therefore an honor to return his legacy to the International Space Station that he helped to construct, as the SS Piers Sellers and Northrop Grumman are go for launch.
Copy that, NG, and we are go to proceed with final countdown. Check step 409. And launch team will be coming up on engine evacuation in just a few seconds here. And hashtag Godspeed Little Noni.
And with that poll, we are go for today's launch of an uncrewed Northrop Grumman Cygnus cargo resupply vehicle named the SS Piers Sellers to head to the International Space Station.
Evacuation started.
Now under 11 minutes until today's launch. Following launch today, Cygnus will spend about 2 days catching up to the International Space Station. Cygnus is scheduled to be captured by the robotic arm of the space station in the wee hours Monday morning. Working that operation will be NASA astronaut Rajachari, and NASA astronaut Kayla Barron will be backing him up from inside the cupola. Rajachari will use the Canadarm2 to reach out and grapple the Cygnus vehicle.
T-minus 10 minutes.
LC MES1, step 411, vacuum verified.
Copy that, MES1. We can check steps 410 and 411.
At that point, Chari will turn over the robotic movements to a team of ground controllers here in Houston, who will maneuver Cygnus into an installation position to be bolted into place on the Earth-facing side of the Unity module. Cygnus will remain at the space station until May, where it will depart the space station and burn up harmlessly in the Earth's atmosphere. Our capture coverage is scheduled at 3:35 a.m. Central Time, 4:45 a.m. Eastern Time on Monday.
Ops 1 LC, countdown 1, step 412, you're go to enable ACS VDMs.
ACS VDMs, internal power on.
Copy.
ACS VDMs enabled, voltage nominal, ODM commands clear.
Roger that, Elect 1, we can check steps 412 and 413. Launch team, be advised, step 414 is not required.
Now under 9 minutes until today's launch, everything's still looking good. And Antares has been switched to internal power. At about 3 minutes ahead of launch will be when the auto-sequence handoff to terminal count occurs, and the computers will take over for the final steps to get us to launch at the opening of today's launch window.
GN2 conditioning initiated.
Copy that. Check 415 complete.
Inside 7.5 minutes until today's launch, you'll continue to hear some of these countdown milestones ahead of today's launch. And at the time of launch, the International Space Station will be flying 261 statute miles over northern Algeria, just south of the Mediterranean Sea.
And passing T-minus 7 minutes. Ops 2 LC, step 417. You go to initialize ground ordnance power supplies.
Ground ordnance power supplies initialized.
LC top lead, step 416, BTSO activation verified.
Copy lead, copy Ops 2.
Ground ordnance power supplies nominal.
Roger that, Elect 1, we can check 416, 417, and 48.
Coming up on the T-minus 6 minute mark.
FA ECS transfer to GN2 is confirmed.
Roger that, site control, check 419 complete.
Now coming up on the T-minus 5 minute mark.
T-minus 5 minutes. Ops 2, step 420. Initiate engine priming.
Engine priming started.
Ops 1, transfer avionics to internal power.
LC Ops 1, avionics internal power on. Stand by. External power off.
Copy that. Check 420, 421.
Internal power nominal.
Roger, Elect 1, check 422 and Ops 1. Open FTS umbi loop.
FTS umbi loop open and green.
FTOU and FTS receiver indications are nominal.
Roger, Elect 2, check 423, 424. Ops, send all arm command.
On my mark, 3, 2, 1, mark. All arm command sent.
SAs, ODMs, all arms.
Copy all. NASA TD, report range status.
LC priming verified.
CD is range is green.
Copy, range green. Copy, priming has been verified. Check 427 and 428. And launch team be advised, phase 3 dynamic limits will be active at T-minus 3 minutes.
T-minus 3 minutes and 30 seconds until launch. Everything's still green across the board.
FC command into flight mode.
T-minus 3 minutes.
Auto sequence start. Podium bus voltages increase.
Less than 3 minutes until launch.
GNC-1, verify ready for nav mode.
LC GNC-1, orb nav ready for nav.
And Ops 2, step 435, switch to nav.
LC Ops 2, switch to nav.
Orb nav telemetry verified.
Copy that. GNC-1, check 436 and passing T-minus 2 minutes, 30 seconds.
Coming up on the T-minus 2 minute mark, Antares systems in good shape. There are no issues at this time.
T-minus 2 minutes. T-minus 1 minute, 30 seconds.
90 seconds until launch.
T-minus 1 minute.
Less than 1 minute until today's launch. At 40 seconds, tanks will be pressurized.
T-minus 30 seconds.
T-minus 15 seconds.
T-minus 10. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have engine ignition.
Yep.
And
the Antares launch vehicle from Wallops Flight Facility. Engines are at 100% thrust. Altitude is nominal.
And we have liftoff of the SS Piers Sellers carrying over 8,000 pounds of cargo to the International Space Station. Good performance on the first stage so far.
Steady at 100% thrust and nominal. Engine still at 100% thrust and nominal. Valve VNO3 open. Attitude remains nominal. Electrical power is nominal.
Everything continuing to look good on Antares.
Passing through 25,000 feet. Passing through max Q, attitude remains nominal.
The first stage is now passing through max Q, the area of maximum dynamic pressure on the rocket. Now 90 seconds into today's flight of the Northrop Grumman Cygnus resupply cargo craft headed to the International Space Station.
VNG-3 now open. Engines remain steady at 100% thrust.
Coming up on the 2-minute mark of flight, everything looking good.
Attitude remains nominal. Power is nominal. – 7,000 feet per second velocity. Attitude remains nominal. Attitude remains nominal.
Continuing to get good reports from the Range Control Center at Wallops.
Velocity now 11,000 feet per second. Power remains nominal. Beginning slow throttle down. Core pressures remain nominal.
Now 3 minutes into today's flight, throttle down will occur 3 minutes into the flight, which means main engine cutoff will be coming soon.
Engine's now at 55% thrust. And MECO.
We have MECO, or main engine cutoff. Antares now entering a coast stage. Fairing separation will occur about 30 seconds from now.
Stage 1 Delta V. Stage 1 is separated.
And as we lose sight of the vehicle, switching to our animation, there are some controlled firings of the inner stage of the rocket. Everything continuing to perform as expected.
Stage 2 ignition at 246. And the vehicle remains at nominal attitude. You have fairing separation.
Fairing separation confirmed. Cygnus now exposed to the atmosphere as it continues its trek uphill to its preliminary orbit.
Stage 2 ignition.
Stage 2 ignition confirmed.
Stage 2 remains nominal.
Stage 2 is a solid rocket motor burn for about 2 minutes and 44 seconds.
TVC is nominal and power is nominal. TVC is nominal.
Continuing to hear all good calls now 4 minutes into today's flight.
Stage 2 performance remains nominal. TVC and attitude are nominal. Approximately 100 seconds to burnout. Vehicle attitude remains nominal. TVC power and attitude remain nominal. Stage 2 remains nominal. TVC is nominal. Stage 2 remains nominal. Stage 2 motor pressure starting to tail off. Vehicle attitude remains nominal. And we have Stage 2 burnout.
Stage 2 burnout confirmed. Cygnus has reached the preliminary orbital insertion. The next major event will be Cygnus's
Attitude remains nominal.
separation from the second stage, which will occur at about the 8-minute 51-second mark.
Antares is in orbit and will close for roughly 100 seconds prior to payload separation.
Everything still performing as expected, now 7 minutes into today's launch.
Vehicle power and attitude remain nominal. Antares remains nominal. Approximately 30 seconds to payload separation. Vehicle attitude remains nominal. Power nominal. And we have payload separation.
Spacecraft separation confirmed. Cygnus now well on its way to the International Space Station. Can see the excitement in the room there as some celebratory fist bumps and high fives take place following today's successful launch.
And Prop 1LC, countdown 1. Can you verify helium pulse purging is in progress? Copy that. And Prop 2, can you verify HPGN2 supply line post-launch purging?
LC Prop 2, GN2 line pulse purging is in progress.
Copy that. And GNC1, let me know when you've provided the state vector to Cygnus, and we'll look for confirmation from them.
LC GNC1 in work.
Site control, step 449. Can you remove aft bay GN2 flow and reconfigure ECS for post-launch?
Aft bay GN2 flow is off. ECS reconfigured for post-flight.
We had a successful launch of the Cygnus cargo vehicle, launching at 11:40 a.m. Central Time, 12:40 p.m. Eastern Time today. With it, over 8,000 pounds of food, fuel, and supplies headed to the International Space Station.
Arm enable rotated and arm indication no longer illuminated.
And Ops 1, disable your local launch enable button.
Ops 1, launch enable removed.
And GSO, can you disable your local launch enable button?
And once Cygnus arrives to the International Space Station in the early hours Monday morning, it will be grappled and installed and then bolted into place. Following that, a series of leak checks at the berthing interface between Cygnus and the Unity module will be conducted to make sure that there's a tight seal between the Cygnus and the station. Following that, the process of hatch opening will begin.
Ground lock, external power off.
Copy that. And TLM, it looks like we're LOS this time.
Hey, firm, LC.
Okay, TLM, you can stop telemetry archiving at the DCOM. You can stop MCC telemetry display, server distributor logging, and you can stop the G2 telemetry recording.
LC TLM and work will report when complete.
And if you're just joining us, the Northrop Grumman Antares rocket lifted off on time from the Wallops Flight Facility in Virginia from Launch Pad 0A at the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport at 11:40 a.m. Central Time, 12:40 p.m. Eastern Time. Coming up in a few hours will be solar array deploy. We won't be covering solar array deployment live on air, but we will provide updates via our blog and social media. Again, it was a perfect ride to orbit. Cygnus now well on its way to the International Space Station with 8,300 pounds of food, fuel, and supplies on board.